With Scuderia Ferrari out of the running at the 4.36 1-kilometer Circuit Gilles-Villeneuve in Montreal, Mercedes and McLaren tried to capture the race victory in the Canadian Grand Prix by alternating in the lead at various moments of the race. However, neither team was perfect enough to stay ahead of Max Verstappen, who managed to secure his 6th win of the 2024 Formula One Championship and the 60th of his career. The Dutchman has won 66% of the races and remains unreachable, with Charles Leclerc still the closest pursuer despite a horrible weekend in Montreal. On the constructors' front, Red Bull is more vulnerable, continuing to have significant margins when Max Verstappen wins, but still relying on only one driver, which means the loss could have been more significant for the Maranello team, who will hope that Sergio Perez continues his poor run also in the second part of the season. At the same time, the bad result in the Canadian Grand Prix should not shift the overall balance on Ferrari to negative. Despite the disastrous weekend at the Circuit Gilles-Villeneuve, Ferrari is in the fight and, under normal conditions, has reduced the gap from the top. After the Monaco Grand Prix, as well as after the pre-season testing session in Bahrain back in February, Ferrari was not expected to win the 2024 Formula One Championship, but to challenge Red Bull for the constructors' title and defeat the Austrian side on specific circuits. Now, the Italian side must seriously fend off the attacks of a McLaren that has become very solid in terms of performance, while Mercedes, despite the excellent signal given in Canada, must prove that its progress is solid and not the result of rather extreme conditions encountered last weekend. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz had developed a good start to the weekend in mixed conditions with stable track temperatures, offering positive comments following the free practice session on Friday. However, on Saturday everything changed. Temperatures soared, combined with a non-abrasive track surface with low degradation, complicating the car's operational index and making it highly unstable. Essentially, the operating window remained unreachable, and the drivers could not push adequately on the tires. This issue had already appeared in the Chinese Grand Prix, partially limiting the SF-24's performance at the Shanghai International Circuit. Here, the red car dramatically lost its way with the correct settings, but the engineer's task was not simple because there was a flaw that could not yet be resolved without updates. In qualifying, the SF-24 is highly dependent on the pressures used and secondarily on the compounds. As is known, engineers can modify very few things in parc ferme, one of which concerns the pressures. Pirelli provides the minimum values that need to be set, ensuring the integrity of the carcass, with minimum values below which it is not possible to go, while it is possible to use reasonably higher starting pressures. There is no need for a maximum index simply because it is dictated by the significant decrease in grip above certain values, which are well known by the teams. The pressures on a stationary tire are about 10 pounds per square inch lower than the stabilized pressures with which the car runs. The sooner that certain value is reached, the sooner the carcass heats up internally and works correctly. Obviously, every car has its own usage range, and if it were easy to obtain a car that works perfectly with all tires, everyone would achieve it. No car is ideal in every range of corners and temperatures. In this sense, even the best car is simply the one with the fewest issues. But this also explains the characteristics of some cars, which seem particularly good in the cold, like the Mercedes W15. Now let's take a look at why Ferrari cannot be stable if temperatures and layout do not help the SF-24 single-seater. The reason is that increasing the pressures to heat up the carcass faster can slightly reduce grip, thus decreasing aerodynamic load in the qualifying session. The car tends to slide more easily and becomes aerodynamically unbalanced. By keeping pressures as low as possible, more grip is certainly obtained, but the car does not quickly generate internal temperature during warm-up. This is highly dependent on the layout and is related to the settings of mechanical stiffness. Stop-and-go circuits, for example, are not ideal. It also depends on ambient temperatures. In China, there was a warning due to the very slippery surface, which had been somewhat revised after years of disuse. It is clear that in Canada, Ferrari encountered the most adverse and unstable conditions possible: temperatures, track surface, layout, which were all factors that became difficult to manage given the characteristics of the 2024 Ferrari F1 single-seater. The SF-24 car is designed not to eat up the tires, and it has demonstrated this in the first part of the current F1 campaign. In long runs with high temperatures, it is the most consistent car up to the last lap if there is high degradation. On the other hand, it is too gentle if the tire is new. In Montreal, the problems of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz prevented a more accurate verification, but the main issue was hitting the window in qualifying. The failure forced the Ferraris out of Q3 by a few thousandths. More aerodynamic load is needed to push the tire down and produce more energy. Indirectly, this should improve the quality and preferences of pressure use when grip is not high and conditions are poor, as happened in Canada. For this reason, the Ferrari technicians are making a significant effort to bring new parts for the next round of the season, the Spanish Grand Prix, including a new floor that should add downforce also to respond to the competition. Red Bull and Mercedes have already declared that they will bring an evolutionary step to their cars at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona, recording a double DNF in Canada. Ferrari are therefore accelerating their upgrade plan to bring big changes to the car for the next race in Spain, with the focus on increasing downforce. Charles Leclerc admitted it hurt as he lost big points to championship leader Max Verstappen, who extended his advantage over the Monegasque driver to 56 points. Ferrari trail Red Bull by 49 in the Constructors' Championship. Clearly, however, even if the Monegasque and Spanish drivers had managed to climb back into the top 10, it would have been a way to limit the damage, but not the result Ferrari was hoping for. The focus is more on the reasons why the SF-24 failed to perform at the expected levels. The lackluster performance does not sound an alarm bell, but it is a clear indication that there is still work to be done, not only to beat Red Bull, but also to find consistency compared to a very solid McLaren, which has appeared to be the best compromise on circuits that have highlighted the weaknesses of the RB20. But having taken steps forward with their Imola upgrade, Ferrari know they need bigger strides if they want any chance of hunting Red Bull down in the championship. As such, the Scuderia are set to accelerate their upgrade program. Initially scheduled to bring the next big package to the British Grand Prix, the Italian side is accelerating production times to introduce the most important innovations already at the Barcelona circuit. While the Maranello team's plan was to wait a few weeks to see how the first upgrades were working, there are now hours of very frenetic work going on in a race against time. Ferrari's decision as to whether or not they run the upgrade in Spain will be determined by how much downforce they can find, as the Ferrari engineers and technicians are chasing approximately 10 load points, as well improvement in terms of efficiency. Having enough of the new parts will also be a factor. Last month, Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur suggested that the Italian side might indeed accelerate their upgrade plan. He mentioned that they are at a point where speeding up development is necessary. The Frenchman explained that if a team could introduce an upgrade one race earlier, it could make a significant difference, potentially moving them from 5th place to P1, especially when the competition is extremely close, as has been the case especially between McLaren and Ferrari. The Ferrari team boss emphasized the importance of timely upgrades and the need for them to be effective, highlighting that the next few events would be crucial.